Chapter 1 The Beacon in the Fog. The fog rolled in thick and fast, swallowing the world whole. Elizabeth Crane tightened her coat as she stepped onto the cobblestone path leading to Gull's hollow lighthouse, a towering sentinel perched on the cliffs above the raging sea. The letter she had received 2 nights prior still sat heavy in her coat pocket. "Miss Crane," it had read, "your uncle's passing leaves you as the sole heir to Gull's Hollow. Arrive promptly. Midnight." She barely remembered her uncle, a reclusive man who spent his life tending the lighthouse. Elizabeth hesitated at the warped wooden door, her hand trembling as it grasped the iron knocker. It fell with a hollow thud. The door creaked open on its own. Beyond was darkness. She stepped inside. A faint light glowed at the far end of the room, a lantern, swaying gently as if held by an unseen hand. The air smelled of salt, damp wood, and something acrid, like burnt hair. "Uncle?" she called, though she knew better. No one answered, but the lantern flickered, its golden light deepening to an ominous red. Then she heard it, a slow, deliberate scraping sound, coming from the spiral staircase leading up the tower. Chapter 2 The Echoes of the Past. Elizabeth's footsteps echoed as she ascended the stairs. Each step felt heavier than the last, as though the lighthouse itself resisted her. The scraping noise continued, a rhythmic drag punctuated by faint whispers. The walls of the staircase were lined with carvings, intricate, swirling designs that seemed to writhe when caught in the lantern's glow. Among the carvings, she spotted symbols she didn't recognize, spirals, eyes, and jagged shapes that resembled broken stars. At the top of the stairs, she found the source of the sound, an old rocking chair, swaying back and forth. No one sat in it, yet it moved with purpose. On a nearby table lay her uncle's journal, its leather cover cracked and stained. She opened it, the pages brittle beneath her fingers. The entries began innocuously enough, detailing the mundane duties of maintaining the lighthouse. But as the days progressed, the tone darkened. "The light keeps more than ships safe. It guards the shore from what lies beyond the fog. They come with the mist, their whispers clawing at my mind. I cannot let the light die." Elizabeth's heart raced. She flipped to the final page, where one sentence was scrawled repeatedly, the ink smudged and frantic. "Never extinguish the light." Behind her, the lantern flared again, casting shadows that danced wildly across the walls. One shadow lingered, tall, thin, and unmistakably human. Chapter 3 The Keeper's Warning. Elizabeth spun around, but no one was there. The lantern, now burning brighter than before, swayed violently on its chain. A deep, guttural voice echoed through the room. "You shouldn't have come." "Who's there?" she demanded, clutching the journal like a shield. The voice chuckled, a sound like grinding stones. "You carry his blood. The light is yours now." She staggered back, nearly tripping over the rocking chair. "I don't want it," she shouted. The shadows thickened, pulling together like ink. From the darkness, a figure emerged, a gaunt man in a faded keeper's uniform, his eyes sunken and glowing faintly. It was her uncle, or what was left of him. "The lantern burns for them," he rasped, pointing toward the window. Elizabeth followed his gesture. Through the fogged glass, she saw them, dozens of figures moving through the mist, their shapes indistinct but undeniably wrong. Some were too tall, their limbs bending unnaturally. Others crawled, dragging themselves toward the cliff's edge. "They're always hungry," her uncle continued. "The light keeps them at bay. But if it fails..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Chapter 4 The Shattering Light. Elizabeth wanted to run, but the weight of the lighthouse held her in place. The fog outside pressed against the windows, and the figures grew clearer. Their faces were blank, featureless voids that seemed to ripple as they moved. Suddenly, the lantern flickered. The golden light dimmed, replaced by a weak, sputtering glow. Her uncle's ghost turned to her, his voice desperate. "You must feed it." "Feed it what?" she cried. But he was already fading, his form dissolving into the shadows. The lantern dimmed further, and the fog began to seep through the cracks in the walls. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of incomprehensible words. Elizabeth stumbled toward the lantern, instinctively reaching for it. The moment her fingers touched the metal, searing pain shot through her hand. The lantern was warm, alive, almost. The journal's words echoed in her mind, "The light keeps them at bay." She understood now. The lantern demanded sacrifice. Chapter 5, The Price of Light. The figures reached the base of the lighthouse, their clawed hands scraping against the stone. Elizabeth's mind raced. She had nothing to give, no offering to satisfy whatever malevolent force powered the light. The fog pressed closer, tendrils of mist curling around her ankles. The whispers grew deafening, voices demanding she join them. "No," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I won't." Desperation took hold. She tore the journal apart, stuffing the pages into the lantern's base. The fire flared briefly, but it wasn't enough. The first figure breached the lighthouse, its blank face mere inches from hers. Its hand reached out, its touch icy and consuming. In a final act of defiance, Elizabeth grabbed the lantern and hurled it toward the intruder. The glass shattered, releasing a blinding burst of light. The fog screamed. The figures recoiled, their forms dissolving into the mist. The light swelled, filling the room with an intense brilliance that obliterated everything. When the light faded, Elizabeth stood alone in the ruins of the lighthouse. The fog was gone, and the sea lay still. But the lantern was whole again, resting at her feet, its golden light burning steadily. A voice whispered in her ear, her uncle's voice, distant and mournful. "You are the keeper now." From the cliffs below, the fog began to rise once more.